Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have one of our favorite guests, Mr. Eric Harp. He is our certified professional fitness trainer and he is also an educator. Good evening, Mr. Harp. How are you this evening?
Oh, Mrs. Davis, just wonderful. Blessed as always. Thank you.
Amen. Amen. You are so welcome. So let's get to it. You know, we have so much to talk about. We have January 6th Commission to talk about. We have Russia, Ukraine to talk about. We have our Supreme Court nominee, Ms. Ketanji Brown Jackson. We have other things. There's a case. I don't want to mention it until we get to it. Something disturbing I heard that came out of London. But will you start us off with our Supreme Court nominee, Ms. Ketanji Brown Jackson? Talk a little bit about that.
Congratulations to her for one.
Yes.
For being in the realm of being nominated.
Mm-hmm.
She's a well-educated, highly deserving, Harvard-educated Supreme Court. She's a federal judge.
Yes.
And President Biden is doing the right thing by trying to make the Supreme Court reflect what the country looks like. And now she's in her grilling process by the Senate, and the Congress gets to say whatever they want. And I make this face because there's a Senator, Josh Hawley.
Yes.
To the nth degree, he gets the ampersand, hashtag TCH,
Mm-hmm.
But, he's doing this thing, and he's questioning her pedigree, not by her education, not by anything, but simply because of her race. He's masquerading this in some child sex pornography decisions that she was lenient on in her past.
Mm-hmm.
And, when the numbers come together, when the analytics come together, they've let far less or far more go from other nominees who were also lenient, and come to find out that the judging panel, that the judging panel, and I wish I had further information on what it was called, but the judging panel that decides the sentencing said that most people under sentence based on the sentencing guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
So she's not the only one. She's just status quo.
Right.
And yet they're using this as some barrier for her to be qualified. And so it's a horrible situation, but we all knew it was coming.
Mm-hmm.
And we all knew that something was coming. We all knew that they were going to pull some type of rabbit out of hat. And unfortunately that this is it. And hopefully she'll get through this, rise above it as she's risen above all the other circumstances that she's been through. And we'll have our first Black woman on the Supreme Court.
Yay, that's exciting.
And then we can move on to other things.
Exactly. What's interesting? So speaking of Holly to me, from what I'm seeing, is trying to incite violence against her, but in a way where it doesn't seem as if that's actually what he's trying to do. He is trying to, hang on one second. I'm sorry, Mr. As I was saying, excuse me, Josh Hawley is trying to do something. And if you remember, I believe it was a couple years ago or a few years ago, Pizzagate. It was that whole thing about certain pizza places doing pornography and trafficking of humans, specifically children. And a lot of the places that, from what I understood, that they were accusing had nothing to do with it. It was just information that was being spread falsely because everybody was talking about this huge system of traffickers. Now we have Jeff Epstein, and we know that Jeff Epstein has some powerful people around him, and some of them have been made public and some have not. And of course, if you go down the rabbit hole on any social media site, you will hear all these different names of people who are supposedly accused. However, the things that he's saying seem to hearken to that, as if she is in bed with these very same people. And then on top of that, Senator Lindsey Graham said today, he called her a chthonic. I believe that's how you pronounce it. CHTHONIC. Had to look it up, Mr. Harp. Actually, it's a underworld demon or deity. I said, oh, are you questioning her humanity? Because he started talking about if she could rule favorably with a Catholic or against a Catholic. And I thought, why do we keep bringing up President Biden's religious affiliation? This goes back to America's founding. And everyone loves to say, we're a Christian nation. We are not. This nation was not founded on Christian principles. This nation was founded on deist principles. Do you know what a deist is, Mr. Harp? DEIST?
Well, you know, that's in my humble opinion, that's putting another God before God.
Well, you could say that, thinking of it as a deity, but the first people, the first Europeans who were running from the prosecution and the strictness of the Catholic Church in Europe came to America looking for freedom to be able to worship however they chose to. So deists, which is a literary term, are actually people who believe in God, yet don't necessarily agree in practice and theory. So these aren't people that are going to church every Sunday, opening up a Bible. They may go in their backyard and sit outside, okay, and pray or study or read or talk. They may go sit out by the side of the highway and say, hey, let's talk about God. How has he been in your life? And so whenever people say that, I'm like, the founding fathers, many of them, including Thomas Jefferson, were deists. They were not Christians. Yes, they believed in God, but they don't believe in, or they did not believe in the practice the way that we see it today. So calling yourself a Catholic, calling yourself Protestant, calling yourself Methodist, sanctified, apostolic, any of these denominations, they would have been like, do whatever you want to, because, you know, we believe in freedom. So if you want to go jump around and scream and holler and play with snakes or whatever it is that you need to do, or you just want to go sit over there and say 20 Hail Marys, do it. Do what you need to do.
They would have been perfect for today.
Exactly. But talk to me
now.
Yes, but talk to me a little bit about where you think that some of the religious threads are coming from, especially when they start uttering terms like, can you rule with a Catholic? Can you? Because remember, Trump was supposed to be the ultimate Christian president, and who had never been to church before and couldn't give you a scripture. I'm just saying.
Trump is the ultimate everything when he tells it.
Yes.
Trump is the ultimate janitor, if that's what he wanted to be. I'm glad you asked that question, because God is only used when necessary. Mm-hmm. You know, in our Declaration of Independence, God is used. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. God is definitely the one who gives you these rights, mm-hmm, to bear arms and to speak freely and to for whatever these Bill of Rights are, mm-hmm, and the amendments that go behind it. These are God-given. So God is definitely mentioned. According to the Constitution, God said that it was cool to divide by color.
Yes.
So, you know, so the way that God is used is definitely to the advantage of who's ever using it.
Mm-hmm.
While at the same time, those particular people will open up the book that says, don't use God's name in vain.
Mm-hmm.
So, this comes that big word conundrum people need to look up.
Mm-hmm.
Conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
We have something that just doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, so here we are on face. Let's go denominations. Denominations, you have people that left England so they didn't follow the Catholic Church.
Mm-hmm.
You have a person that didn't like the Catholic Church named Martin Luther, so he changed his whole religion to Lutheran.
Mm-hmm.
And so you got people who are Lutheran. You got Episcopalian. You got African Methodist Episcopalian.
Mm-hmm.
You got Presbyterian, because some other person didn't like the Catholic Church. So, you know, you have all of these different churches who are now saying, we will accept anything.
Mm-hmm.
So you can get married under God in whichever form you want to get married.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, now it's all debatable. God is God. God is not up for debate. And the word of God is not up for debate. You know, I'm sorry for those who can't read and translate the King James Version or the New International Version or the New King James Version of the Word of God, because it comes with some instructions on how to live, how to be, how to act, how to pray, how to worship. But there's only one way to God, through Jesus Christ. You know,
Amen.
For those of your listeners who need to hear that, that's what it is. There's only one way. It's not acting good. It's not going to purgatory and fixing yourself. It's not any of that. It's one way, Jesus Christ. Now, the Constitution doesn't mention that. There's no other entity besides the Bible that seems to want to go with that and mention that. So everybody's up for themselves. It's a horrible situation that everybody's up for themselves and can't figure it out.
Right.
There's only one key. And, you know, you don't have to jingle the key ring and try to figure out which other key might fit. It's only one key. And so with that, those who would try to call someone else a deist or call someone else a this or that or this or that, you know, there's only a believer or a non-believer. You know, and I'm sorry, you know, not Eric Harp's opinion. This is not an opinion that I heard someone else on some other news channel or anything like that. You know, there's only one way. So for those that want to get caught up in the mud, caught up in the muck, in the mire of who's the bigger Christian and who donates more or who believes in Israel more or what have you, there's only one way. And, you know, unfortunately, there's not many people that's willing to confess that.
Right.
You know, whatever their so-called religion or however often they go to church and listen to church music, get down on their knees and pray or pray before they eat, you know, from what you just told me, a deist believes in God, but just not willing to do the work.
Right.
Oh, well, I don't know what they mean by that. Because there's people who give to charity who don't believe in God at all. So they do it. So they do work. There's, you know, the number one rule, you know, and you can quote me, you can find it in the Bible. Jesus told us is to love one another, you know, like he loved us. To your neighbor like he loved us. We can't even do that simple thing right there.
No, so, we sure can't.
So that leads us to war in Ukraine.
We don't love one another. No, we want to covet our neighbor, what our neighbor has. That's you know, that's foundation. That's in the 10 Commandments.
Listen, this thing with Russia and Ukraine is all that. You know, want to take the land, want to exterminate the people,
Mm-hmm.
want to, you want to show the world that you got a little strength. Now, it's a horrible situation, and I pray for all of the people in Ukraine, because they are definitely getting attacked.
Mm-hmm.
The people of Russia who have nothing to do with the military or the war, they're suffering.
Yes.
They're suffering because their prices are up as well.
Mm-hmm.
They're standing in the world. These oligarchs, and we hear this word several times now. I mean, we call them rich.
Mm-hmm.
We just call them rich.
Right.
We got to hear this word, Russian oligarchs. These extra billionaires that have yachts, and they own cities and own states and governors, senators too.
Mm-hmm.
These Russian oligarchs are getting their material seized.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's kind of a funny thing in a situation like this. What do they do? Do they take it to the old shipyard and hold it? What are you taking?
One in particular, a Russian oligarch. This is a true story. I forget which one it is. His yacht needed gas. Imagine that. No one will sell him any. So it's sitting in dock, I believe in Gibraltar. And they're like, it's been seized. No, it can't go anywhere. He can't even get gas. So when you talk about the Russian oligarchs, yes, and it's only a handful. I think it's maybe 20, 25 of them that are extreme billionaires. There was one that I was reading. His yacht has missile avoidance detection system, meaning if you shoot a missile at him, his ship knows what to do to avoid being hit by the missile. I said, wow, that's the money for real.
That's because he's from Russia, where they got missiles.
I get it. But I mean, you hear about the average
don't mistake me.
Right. We hear about Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and people like that, and they have a yacht, and they might show it on television and say, hey, this is Bill Gates' yacht. It's 250 feet. It has however many bedrooms, but no one ever says, oh, and by the way, it has a missile defense system built into it. It just,
I'm sure it does. I'm sure it's got, Alexa, missile.
Alexa, there's a missile coming. All right, sir, I'm right on it.
Yeah, she'll just tell you. She'll just say, there is a missile coming. Hi,
but,
there is.
Right. But I mean, one of the things that they do say about the Russian oligarchs is that many of them fund Putin's different wars, ideas, schemes, anything that he's trying to do. These are the people that he pulls upon to use their extreme finance, wealth, and influence to be able to make whatever happen.
And Donald Trump was able to pull upon them to save his hotels
in
New York City. So, these oligarchs come in handy when they need to be. You can have a couple Russians in your back pocket. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, this is why it's such a big hoopla on these conservatives who are seemingly supporting Russia. You get the talking heads on Fox News they're going through the ringer right now on what their wordplay seems to be. They're supporting Russia. Your friend Tucker Carlson is constantly asking questions about, well, why do we have to support Ukraine? Why can't we support the bigger fella? Mm-hmm. Why is it that we have to support the little fella in all these wars? Mm-hmm. Now, I have a question.
Sure.
Here we go. All kind of refugees leaving. Mm-hmm. A lot of them have made their way to the southern border of our United States.
That's right. And they're making their way through.
What they gonna do? They jump line? They just jump line. Now, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. We know that there are several wars going on in Central and South America.
Mm-hmm.
And we have refugees trying to leave those wars.
Mm-hmm.
They get caught up at the southern border, and all of a sudden we don't want them. We don't want
Right.
those folks.
Right.
We don't want folks. They just gonna come in and be Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
All they're gonna do is come in and be Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
So here we go. We just gonna let the Ukrainians, and God bless them, but they get to the southern border and they just like, hey, everybody else step aside. We letting the Ukrainians come in.
Now, Mr. Harp, you know the answer to that question.
You know, I'm just putting it out because I have to say it out loud.
Well, let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back to what Donald Trump said when he was president. We don't want to have all these people here. We don't want people to come from the crappy countries. And he didn't say crappy. We know he said the S word. We don't want those people coming from those places. But we want, right, the crap hole countries. We want people coming from Europe who are educated, who have money. Essentially what he was saying is we only want white people to come here. I don't care if you are black, brown, red, or yellow, and you're coming from, you know, another country that is struggling internally because you have a civil war, or you're looking for better opportunities, whatever your reason is, or you're just running for safety because they have killed off your entire family, as they do oftentimes in Central America and in Africa. And young women run for lots of different reasons. You know, in certain parts of Africa, they are forced to perform certain cuttings on women. And if you don't want to have this cutting, you have to leave. Well, where do you go? And
unfortunately, that, you know, that still doesn't get you in.
No, it doesn't.
No,
and that was my point. Right. Even when we left Afghanistan, remember the visual that we saw of people crying and pushing to get onto planes, and they left them. They left them. It was as if, well, if you haven't gotten over here already, oh well, there's not a lot that I can do for you. You need to figure it out. And many of those people we were talking about who all said the same thing, you know, they are westernized. These are people that didn't grow up under the oppressive Taliban regime that was there before the Americans came and took over. Now, here we have the Taliban resuming their control. And although they said, oh, we're going to have women in places and we're not going to make women second-class citizens again, you don't hear anything. And there was extreme fear. I look at Russia being the same as Afghanistan. In one, Putin came out and said fake news. I said, oh, where have we heard that from before? And then, you know, you have a whole news blackout. Money, we talk about cashless society. So you remember when the Ukrainian war first broke out, nobody could get access to any finance. So whether it was Apple, Square, any Zelle, any of these places, Cash App, money was down. Banking systems were cut off. So imagine you live in a country where your leader gets to do whatever he wants to do and you have no rights. Now you have no money. Now you have no food. And as the same thing that happened in Afghanistan, people were like, we can't even go and try and find what resources or things that we need because we might be killed or kidnapped and forced to marry someone.
That's the dangers of the autocracy, you know. Unfortunately, that's what your boy Donald Trump wanted.
Yes.
He didn't get.
Right, thankfully.
You know, that seems to be the playbook in a lot of places around the world, especially where his friends who saved the hotels in New York. Now, America's stuck between a rock and a hard place. I mean, in fact, NATO is stuck between a rock and a hard place. Putin has some big guns. He has some big toys. And he's threatening to use them. Now, you know, you got your critics who will say, nah, he wouldn't do that. You got some people who say, yeah, well, he just, right? But it's not time to test him and see, because the places that he will go after would be the, worse than your 9/11s. And so Russia's threatened that if anybody makes that kind of move and threatens airspace in Ukraine, and he'll take that as a sign that you trying to jump in it. Now, America is, of course, trying to backdoor, go through Poland and give them some planes and give them some this and give them some that, some ammunition. We did this with, we send aid into Vietnam. We sent aid into Korea. We sent aid in Afghanistan. We sent aid into Kuwait. But this time, this is that real thing. This is not where America is the big boy coming in. America coming in and gonna stand toe to toe against Russia. And then China wants to jump in it. And then you got some NATO countries that'll jump in it. So it's gonna be a war. Now, circle back to those folks who believe in God but don't want to do all the work. They better learn that last book in the book.
Faith without works is dead. That is the scripture. Yes.
Read that last book in the book, because some things have to come to pass.
Yeah.
But my point is that, no matter what, we are in some treacherous times, and these times we are inundated with a news cycle trying to figure out what's going on overseas. Now we got sympathies and heartstrings over, it's horrible. War is horrible. Many of us are complaining about our own stuff. The gas prices are too high. Can't find
inflation.
Inflation. I still haven't got my PlayStation. I still haven't got my Ford Bronco. Whatever. So the computer chips, oh my goodness. But yet, I'm sorry for the people over there. They, too bad, so sad. Right. That's a lot of our attitude. So we fail to love one another, love our neighbor like we love ourselves. But we're definitely in some treacherous times. And because the news cycle is stuck on Russia, these little stories, atrocities, are falling under the radar. The little girl in London. The little girl in London who was strip searched.
Yes, I was going to talk about that. Was the story. Yes, go ahead, share.
No, you know what? It's such a sad story.
It's very sad to be a 13-year-old girl on your menstrual cycle, and because someone says that they smell weed on you, to take you to the bathroom where every adult, no one puts up a defense for you. No one says, let's call her parent, her mother, somebody. No one does that. They take her to the bathroom and strip search her, make her remove her feminine pad while she is actively on her cycle.
Like she's hiding something there.
Yes, and they strip search her like they do an adult prisoner. They did a full cavity search of her. And so now she is withdrawn. She is cutting herself and is abusive to herself. There has been a worldwide outpouring of support. And people are saying, well, we smelled weed. What's wrong? And what annoys me and angers me so much is that people keep calling her a woman. I said, she's not a woman. Stop sexualizing her. She's 13. That means she's either in 8th or 9th grade in America. And if this was a white girl, she would be considered as such. Oh no, this is Jane and Michael's child. And she was violated in the most humane, in the most inhumane way possible. But because this little girl was Black with locks, and because she smelled of weed, Someone thought that she had it.
Someone assumed that she smelled the weed.
Yes.
I mean, as a person who works in school, that's a lawsuit.
It is.
That's a lawsuit. I mean, and it's from what I understand, that's not a lawsuit that any school wants to be in.
Not here. Not here.
That's going to involve school districts, county districts, states, all of that. Teachers, boards, all of that. Teacher reviews, all of that. Over something that should have been handled by proper procedure. You know, all the while, this woman is mentally scarred, is emotionally scarred for who knows how long. While other people, as you say, are claiming that they just did it by the book. I just did my job.
Right.
Did my job. You know, as I would assume that this Senator Hawley is saying, I'm just doing my job. I'm just doing my job. And that's really not, to ask questions, the tough questions. Those are good. Question the record. We have so many avenues and we can look up information and find out all the record. But here we go. We take that yellow highlighter and we start saying, well, you said these 3 words. Well, let's flip the script and say, you said these 3 words. But don't cancel me. This is cancel culture. Why would you cancel me over 3 words that I said 18 years ago? Where was that, the pot calling the kettle black?
Yes.
And so it's a horrible situation. I mean, again, around the world right now, you got the Ukraine and the Russia situation that is taking over the news cycle. The young lady in London, the many, and it's not director, and it's not, I'm sorry, I have to smile at this because the last time we spoke, it was the director of Black Panther.
Yes.
Who was stopped at a bank.
Yes.
But now it seems that there's a whole lot of people getting stopped at the bank trying to handle their bank business. Being called in as a bank robber. Handling their business, shopping, and being called in as the thief.
That's right.
Cops coming in and immediately assuming, oh, you mean this guy?
Right. Or you call for 911 because you're at your home because someone broke into your house, and the police get there and immediately assume that you're the thief instead of the homeowner.
Instead of the homeowner. And and these things are just happening over and over and over. Now, January 6th.
Yes.
So there's a lot of sentencing going on. There's a lot of rioters who have now got their charges, bumped up to this sedition and this conspiracy, and what have you. Well, there's a gentleman, and I'm at a place right now where I don't have his name. But there is a gentleman who claims that he is in prison being treated worse than Black people.
I'm sure.
He said he's being separated. His food, his stares, and his threatening looks, and the way that the guards are treating him is similar to 1950 Selma, Alabama. 1950,
oh my goodness.
Jim Crow, 1950. And he wrote a letter to the judge and said that it's not fair. And the Black people have evolved and their treatment has evolved. So how come he's being treated now worse than Black people?
I can't even answer, or it just.
I had to giggle at it. Again, I love to be prepared for you, Mrs. Davis.
Well, and thank you for sharing that.
find that article, and I was like, I wasn't gonna speak on it because I didn't have it in front of me. But I just thought it was the most hilarious thing.
But isn't it? But isn't it interesting because, and I forget the guy's name. You remember the kid that went before the judge and said that he was rich, and that was his defense for his crime, and because he was raised wealthy, that he had no moral standing. And so the judge let him off and said, well, he gave a good argument.
He gave a good, honest argument.
Right. He's rich.
It's BS, but it was honest.
Absolutely. And basically said, well, we can't hold him responsible for what he did because he was rich. Then there was the other guy, and they just talked about it not too long ago, and I can't remember his name either, but he had raped a woman, and he was an adult. And they said because he had already gone through being in jail, waiting for a trial, that he had already suffered, and he shouldn't suffer anymore because it wasn't going to do any good for him. And I said, see, this is the difference. So when people talk about American judicial systems, and we had a case here in Michigan not too long ago where 2 young white men were accused of decapitating, I think it was a dog or a cat. They had skinned it. Somebody found it. It was out in one of the suburban communities in Michigan. And they went before the judge, and the judge said, I believe that this is a youthful prank. I thought, what? You haven't watched any serial killer movie, have you? Because every serial killer movie that I've ever seen, from Hannibal Lecter all the way to Forensic ID, the first thing they say, small animals were found decapitated and skinned alive. That's a sign. But because these kids were rich and white and had influence, yes,
they were just exploring. They were
exactly
just kids being kids.
That's just kids being kids. But when Black children do things that should be considered similarly, and we aren't talking about someone taking someone's life,
the murderous,
right. Exactly. You're just out and you get into a fight with somebody, as we see, and something that I'm dealing with my children in school. They have this thing that's called Go 30. And so the kids go into the bathroom and start fighting and videotape themselves. And so now you have issues where if somebody gets hurt, okay, are we pressing charges? If you're pressing charges, that means this kid gets put into the legal system. And I'm not advocating for or against, because, if it was my child, we'd have to make some serious decisions. However, you put this child into the judicial system now, and then the judge has the opportunity, as our Supreme Court nominee was said, Ms. Ketanji Brown Jackson, to determine whether or not that person is found guilty, and whether or not he or she has to give the max of sentences, or can she be lenient, or he could decide probation. Because, oftentimes people will say, well, we don't think that they're a danger to society. We'll give them 5 years probation or 10 years probation, and they have to do a set amount of things in order to meet their probation. Oftentimes Black kids don't get that. They get the maximum of sentences. You will see kids that were caught doing drugs or something like that they had no business doing. But instead of being given some of the other supportive services and restorative justice services that they should be given, that everyone else is given, they're just sent off to jail. Like, nope, they're not going to amount to anything.
I mean, that's been going on for a very long time. That's
yes.
That's unfortunately that not new. Our penal system is funded off of that. It's horrible. Right now, there's with the help of DNA and the help of forensics and other scientific methods, people are getting exonerated from a lot of the crimes that were placed upon them. The convictions were placed upon them, and it was and there's people who deserve to be there, of course. There's people who do
Right.
not.
Mm-hmm.
It is definitely imbalanced based upon, zoning, race, and, attitudes, beliefs, and all of that, which will never change.
Mm-hmm.
So the funds will keep on coming. The penal colonies will keep on thriving. We just spoke recently about killers of Ahmaud Arbery,
Mm-hmm.
Kim Porter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We, the killers of, I'm sorry that Kyle Rittenhouse didn't make it into the system.
Mm-hmm. They should send him to Ukraine since he wants to protect property. There's lots of property over there for him to protect. So I'm just putting it out there. Just send him.
Go ahead and fly him and make an exchange with him and his gun.
Right.
It's over there and he can do his thing. He can be, listen, no joke. He could be President Zelensky's bodyguard and just going over there and do his thing.
Well, I don't trust him to do that. I don't trust him to do that.
He can do his thing. Make his way where he needs to be.
Right.
Just get away from this and he won't be canceled. No, Mr. Davis, a lot of this is just unanswerable. The stuff that's going on, why Russia's doing what it's doing, why America's in the position that it's in. It's unanswerable right now. There's so many questions, there's so many whys, there's so many guesses, so many talking head opinions. But you got people supporting one thing because they believe in one idea. You got other people supporting another idea. Mm-hmm. And the frustration of not being able to know which way is up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because here in America, we can be gotten. Mm-hmm. We can be gotten. And people need to realize that,
And January 6th was a perfect example of that.
So January 6th was the show
it almost happened.
Don't sleep, because
that's right.
Because we can be gotten.
Mm-hmm. 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 So, Mr. Harp, we have to talk fitness because we can talk current events all day. Oh, so, as an educator in Michigan, we just lifted our mask mandate. So a lot of people are starting to feel as if, I know, we're laughing because we still wear our masks everywhere we go. But a lot of people are feeling like we're coming out of the pandemic. And many of our children, we're finding out, are a lot heavier, are out of shape, are overweight and obese because they haven't had access to outside activities because outside was dangerous. No one wanted to go out. No one was going to parks and other places. And many times parents will say, oh, when I was a kid, I went outside. I played outside all day.
What you doing inside? What you doing?
Right.
It's time to get
you had, okay, so we're going to age ourselves. So when we were kids, you ate breakfast and then your parents kicked you out. You didn't come back in until it was lunchtime, and then you went back out. And if you were in my house and you came back in, one of my parents was, what are you in here for? You're not going to run in and out of my house all day. You better go outside. If you wanted some water, you went to the water hose outside and got you some water. So for everybody that's listening, thinking, oh my gosh, what kind of environment did you grow up in? We all did it. If you wanted water, you went to the water hose. If you wanted a snack and you were lucky, one of the parents would bring it out, but you weren't running in and out of the house to go get something. But kids today, many of them are stuck all day doing this. They're on handheld devices. And lots of parents are struggling because they want their kids to have socialization, yet they're afraid because of COVID and everything else. So how, Mr. Harp, do we get our kids interested in fitness and being healthy? Because it's not just what you eat, you have to move too.
For one, shout out to the old school parents. Kick them out until it's time to come back in for lunch.
Right.
Listen, summertime is meant to be outside. You know, pandemic, safe neighborhoods, all of that, you know, plays a big part. But here's how we do it. Here's how we do it. A lot of these kids are watching TikTok videos and they dancing. So they're moving somewhere in their small, limited space, but they need to get outside. And, you know, I would encourage, you know, get outside, make your TikTok videos, but get outside and do it. Little exercises like a bike. You know, I know that's a lost piece of technology,
Yes.
but a bike and some errands, you know, run to the store and grab something. I need that. Give them a place to go. You know, I know there are people who have brothers, sisters, you know, siblings. If it's affordable, get some bikes, and parents get some bikes and make it a family affair and ride around. You know, take the opportunity to ride through some of these trails that these city parks offer. For those of us with young children, work out with them, get them involved in doing some things. It'll help the parent as well. You know, those who pushing strollers, get out there and push that stroller. Let the kid get out and do some somersaults, roll around on the grass. You know, do some things like that. Those types of activities will instill moving around activities. Not everybody's into a basketball and a basketball hoop in the backyard, but a jump rope is good. A jump rope, a good old fashioned hula hoop. Some of those things that if you're confined to your backyard, some of those things that when you're outside in the front, it's always good to have a race with someone. You know, I bet you I can beat you 2 houses. Let's have a race. You know, there's many things that children can do using their imagination. But we need to move, that urge to move. We have to have that urge to move. And parents have to have that backbone. Take away the electronic device for a little while and get outside for an hour. The weather's beautiful. Don't miss it. Get outside for an hour. You know, at school, kids have recess, but they get a chance to run outside, to get outside on the playground. Not everybody has PE class. But there's elementary schools at least have recess and some slides and some things to go out. So every day they should be getting a little bit of exercise. And as the weather changes, especially in these northern states, as the snow starts to melt and the sun's coming out a little bit more, the temperatures rise. Yeah, use those slides. Parents, get out there, take your kids to a park. And don't leave them there. Get on the swing with them. If there's an old-fashioned seesaw, get on the other side and seesaw.
That actually is fun. I've done that with my kids.
Some of us parents, you know, could use a ride down the slide or two. You know, bring that inner child out of us adults, which would also help that child, teenager, young adult, get interested in moving around as well. A family that moves together, you know, a family that moves together. You know, I wish I had a rhyme for it right now, but you know, a full family together that plays together, stays together. And just turn it into fun. You know, there's so many imaginative things. It doesn't have to involve weights. It doesn't have to involve structured exercise. Jogging is great. If you're able to do that and you have some family members that want to do it. If you're into walking, especially if you're into walking, pull that wagon with some of your young toddlers. walk next to the training wheel, the child on the bike with the training wheels. But show the child that you're willing to get out there too.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us parents would just say, get out while we sit down. So make it a family thing and see how things turn out. But it's definitely a better way to save the electronics for a little bit later. They won't go anywhere, but just to put them on pause for an hour or two.
Exactly. So my next question, because many of us have been sitting down, many of us sit throughout our day for a variety of reasons. So as I was saying, many of us have been sitting down, our kids have been sitting down doing this all day. We sit down at our desks, on our phones, and different things. Are there some exercises that can help strengthen our cores? We talk a lot about this, and people always talk about crunches, but for those that aren't able to do crunches or aren't able to touch their toes or things like that, what exercises are good to start off with that can help strengthen a person's core?
That's a good question. There's a few different things you can do. A twist, a Russian twist, where you're working by twisting at your waist. As you develop that move,
Mm-hmm.
you know that getting out of the bed when you have to lift your feet over and out of the bed, that feeling right there, like, woo, you work yourself. So you can just lay on your back and lift your feet about 6 inches off the ground. Okay. Now you can start doing a little swim kick with that. Okay. You don't have to go too fast. Go slow, breathe deeply while you do it. The scissor kick, which is the same thing. While you lift your feet slightly off the ground. And, for those, start off slow. Put a small pillow under your back, under the small of your back. A lot of you blessed sisters over there, you might need that little pillow under your back so that you can lift your feet off the floor. Like I said, about 6 inches off the floor would do it. And just start working those exercises. As time starts to progress, you start strengthening up your abdominal muscles. And a crunch is a partial sit-up. Okay. Now, many of us like to put our hands behind our heads while we do a crunch. We start pulling on our necks, and all we're doing is nodding and calling that a crunch. So, you might want to cross your hands over your chest, put your hands on the floor, right behind your back, what have you, and partially lift, and you'll feel the abdominal muscles, your top abdominals, the top of your stomach muscles. You start feeling your lower stomach start to activate. Now, nothing's going to happen overnight. There's a few things that would have to go on. Sometimes we definitely have to change our diet, do a little bit more cardiovascular movements. But we definitely want to strengthen our core by doing some of those movements.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Harp. So our takeaway today is we can do the Russian twists. We can do scissor kicks, making sure that we lift our feet 6 inches off the floor, and do the swimming kick, or how we get out of bed, where we go, ooh, that hurts. Because when we
paraphrase so well.
Because you remember when we were kids and your parents would go, yeah, I feel aches and pains in all kind of strange places. And the older you get, people say that. And so now people that I know, they're like, well, yeah, I felt it when I got out of bed this morning. I said, that's funny. I said, we have all become our parents. But working out as a family together, whether it's walking, whether it's biking, staying fit together is what keeps a family together. I think those are some great points to remember and to focus on. So, Mr. Harp, tell us where we can find you. Tell us how we can follow you on social media, all those good things.
Well, I am at ESQ360 at all your social platforms. You can reach me directly at my email, ericharp9@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for coming on the Kim B. Davis Show and talking fitness and current events with us. I'm sure next month we'll have another exciting topic, and I'm sure there will be more. Hopefully by that time, Supreme Court nominee Ms. Ketanji Brown Jackson will be officially confirmed, and we can call her our latest Supreme Court justice. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yes, indeed.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Kim B. Davis Show. You know, you can find me everywhere on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, LinkedIn, and it's Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. It's Kimberly Bachelor Davis. You can see this show at youtube.com/Kimberly Bachelor Davis. You can hear this show on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google. And we have a new platform that we were just added to called Wisdom. It is an app, WISDOM. You can find us on there as well. Thank you again for tuning in. I hope you'll tune in for our next show. And as always, remember, be magnificent.